Welcome back to Vizaural Music, the music podcast. We talk about tracks that we found on Bandcamp and were sent in to us by listeners just like you. My name is Ryan, and we're joined again by the other co-host, Craig.
Hello.
And by popular demand, Angel.
Yeah, it's me.
Yep. And I imagine you sound a little better now because you bought a microphone, which is...
I hope so. Or I'm doing something wrong with it.
Yeah, well, you better not do something wrong.
My money's on he's doing something wrong.
Oh, yeah, probably.
So after our last episode of talking about Metallica, have you guys just been on a pure Metallica kick for like a month? You know, as you just so into that film and just, living and breathing through Lars that you just feel like you had to go back and see his recordings from the past?
Yeah, actually, I've been yelling at everybody for downloading music and not paying for it, and that's just doing my part.
Well, that is good. I mean, people should, pay for stuff, right?
Unless it's free.
Unless it's free. And many of the songs on this show are actually free, so you'll be able to take part in them even if you are a cheap little bastard, like Craig.
Yeah.
I just was listening to Megadeth.
Oh, that's smart. Obviously a much better band. I hope some of these tracks actually remind you of Megadeth, because some of them do for me.
Just the great wordplay, yes.
Oh, yes, definitely. Some of the cover art as well. Is there anything else noteworthy, gentlemen, going on in the last... Just to reveal this to the listeners, we generally record like once a month, so... It's we're all grown adults. We don't necessarily get together all the time and talk about our lives. So this is probably the only opportunity we actually have to figure out what's going on.
Yeah, so I did some landscaping a couple of weeks ago, and I am very allergic to evergreens, it turns out. And I had to go to the urgent care last weekend to get some steroids because
Really?
I blew up like a balloon, and my body was just oozing pus.
Now, evergreens, I think of that as like the big trees. Are you talking about those, or is that something different?
Well, no, those are big trees, but also like juniper. We have a juniper hedge that apparently I can't touch, and found out a couple weeks ago the same thing with our yew hedge. Yeah, if you want to get me into a lot of pain for a couple of weeks, just throw evergreen branches at me.
I'm writing
just
that
whip
down.
Me with them. Yeah,
I'm putting it in my file. I'm like Professor X, I have a file on all my X-Men of how to kill them if I ever need to. So, yeah, I'm adding that.
Wow,
Aren't you also allergic?
Like cosplay.
True. Aren't you also allergic to hops or something?
Well, if I have, sort of. If I have beers with too many dry hops and like have a couple of them, I can get a really splitting headache, like a sinusy allergic thing. So I kind of am allergic to hops, but not if they've been like used for bittering and stuff like that. It's mostly just dry hop beers.
There you go. So Craig almost died. How about you, Angel? You almost died as well?
No, I did do some manscaping. I usually do that every 2 weeks.
Oh, see? Now that's a different kind of show. I, on the other hand, have just been doing the same old thing. Not finishing. Although I did go to some live shows around here, which makes me feel increasingly old as the crowd stays increasingly the same age, and I am slowly getting out of that. In fact, I had my ears ringing so bad. Went to see Sloth and Turtle, who we talked about on a previous episode, a bunch of other kind of math rock bands in the area, and my ears were ringing so bad for like 3 days after the show. I've never had that problem, and it wasn't even that super loud, so I'm like, man, I'm old. I just can't handle it the same way I used to.
Well, I'm guessing it was very, very loud, and you're just losing your hearing, and you couldn't tell at the time that it was very loud, and now you just lost even more of your hearing.
I know. So now I realize I do have to be a lot more careful. I'm going to buy like pair of like noise canceling headphones that I bring to these things, which will make me even cooler, I'm sure, as I walk into there like, hey, super cool kids, look at my noise canceling headphones.
I'm wearing headphones. Why don't you just wear earplugs?
I could. I just think I probably have to go to the next level now. If I'm going to protect myself, I want to do it right. And also, I would like, in a couple of years for my kids to even go to some of these shows. And I thought I might as well invest in some of these things and see how they work on me before I subject my children to that kind of noise.
I guess.
Yeah. Well, speaking of subjecting children to noise, let's get into some of these tracks. 'Cause I think we got 7 awesome songs here, and I'm interested to see what you two have to say about them and also what the listeners have to say. So let's jump into the first one.
Do you guys have a large audience of children?
Yes, in fact, that's the only people listen to this is the 12 to 14 age range, according to
I was gonna say, Ryan just plays this for his kids. And, when they're bad, he punishes them by listening to our podcast.
Yep, and that is 50% of our viewing audience. So there you go. Let's get to the first track from a New Jersey act called Nick Sisti with their song "The Day of Old Battles." I've been listening to a lot of prog recently, and I know prog is really, really cool right now, or at least I'm hoping it's cool by me liking it at this moment. In fact, I was talking to my brother who was in town about math rock because he didn't know what that was, and I said, it's kind of like prog music, but like for hipsters. It's the same kind of concept, like someone is noodling around and doing stuff that most people are going to be totally not interested in. There's no vocals, and it's guitar wonkery. And I was playing him some great prog records from the 60s, 70s, and 80s, and I found this track, and I thought it was really great. So what do you guys think of it?
You go first. Oh,
you want to go first?
Fine.
Okay, I'll go first.
No. We'll go at the same time. Ready?
All right.
1, 2, 3.
Well,
So,
to be fair, I must say. Okay, I'll go. So I did like this song. I'm not like a huge instrumental type of person where I can just sit back and listen to a lot of instruments. Sorry, that's my phone.
How
God
dare
damn it!
you?
Turn your notifications off. Goddamn. Amateur hour over here. Amateur hour.
So I will say that, I don't really like instrumentals a whole lot. They have to be pretty interesting to me for me to like really get into them. And I was kind of worried at the beginning of this one because I wasn't super digging it at the beginning. But as it got on, it got a little more noodly. I did like it a lot more. It wasn't anything complex like super proggy, but I did enjoy it. It was a fun listen.
Yeah, I guess, it's not super proggy insofar as the kind of motifs that I think, if someone says something is super proggy, I think Genesis from like the 60s where they have costumes and they're singing about like, some fairy tale stuff. It's not that. It's definitely a more modern kind of take. In fact, it kind of reminds me of like 80s King Crimson where it's a little on the dancier side because I imagine the drum track is either a loop or a drum machine and he's just a guitar player. That's what I just assumed from this. So yeah, I think you're right about that. How about you, Craig? You love this, right?
Yeah. That's my interpretation of the song.
Oh.
No, so I was kind of on the same tilt as On Hill. Like the phrasings of the guitars were good, but I think that ultimately it felt a little unfinished. And like you said, the electronic beat or the loop is kind of the reason for that. Like I think if it would have had actual drumming, it would have done a lot of favors to this. Like it just kind of felt like a demo track that a guitarist would play for his band. He's like, all right, this is my idea. And
Sure.
like he wanks off for about, how long was this? Like 25, 35 minutes?
It's pretty long. I picked a lot of long tracks both this week and next.
You sure did. No, but I think it was good. The phrasings were interesting, but it just didn't go anywhere, partially because it was instrumental and partially just because it had that generic electronic beat behind it. But
Sure.
obviously the guitarist is pretty damn talented because that's the whole focus of the song then. But I would have liked more stuff to it.
Yeah, this is the kind of music where I imagine if it was a little looser, if it like you mentioned, if there was like a live drummer and it kind of both sped up or slowed down or just that would probably have benefited. What were you saying, Arno?
Yeah, I was gonna say that's a good point that Craig makes about the drumming. Like if he's kind of like stuck in a tempo and in a beat in a rhythm, If it had been more dynamic, it might have gone to more interesting places.
Fair enough.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna go back when this gets released and cut out that snippet that said, "Yeah, Craig made a good point," and just have that as like my ringtone, just so this is like the first time I've ever heard Angel say something nice about me.
It will be the last as well, especially when we get into the conversation about this next track. This is from an act called Waterfront Dining and something Core. It's,
I actually know what it. I looked it up. I know what it means.
Oh, what is it?
Cat System Corporation.
Awesome. Waterfront Dining and Cat System Corporation with their song Our Night.
Just like those dreams of mine, but somehow you come to life. Now I finally got to see what I've been missing all of this time. And now my hopes and my plans have come to at last. You're mine tonight. Let me lay by your side. Look in my eyes. Girl, can't you see
So,
what
like a lot of
you're doing?
vaporwave or some of this kind of in fact this is labeled post vaporwave, which got me really interested. Like, what is post vaporwave? Like, well, I don't even know what vaporwave is exactly, other than they're just kind of processing kind of synthetic 80s music through like a different lens. So I got to look into what a post vaporwave is. But this is from a Wales act, which goes to show that all this kind of music seems like there is no place for it. It's almost like it just exists online. Like I imagine there's no physical scene of people in one location that has kind of developed this. But I loved it. I really like this kind of stuff. I've been listening even to a lot of what's called city funk or city pop from Japan in like early 80s, really commercial sounding pop music. And I just like how this kind of goes about and changes it around a bit. It has an awesome bass line, bass synth, which I'm always keen to hear, because that to me just sounds like pure sex. How about you, Angel? What do you think of this?
I mean, all this vaporwave stuff, I love it. I'll always love it. I feel. So far, I've not heard like a song that I don't like. I'm not into. I thought it was really good. The only thing is the other vaporwave stuff that I've heard has been a little bit faster, more of an upbeat tempo.
Sure.
And this had a little bit of a different vibe to it. So it was a little slower than I appreciated from the other songs, but I really like the vocals that they sampled. I'm assuming they were sampled.
And I had that question too with a lot of this vaporwave stuff. I'm always like, how is this just like a song that they've slowed down or added reverb to, and I'm just not familiar with it, or how much of this is like an actual reconstruction and a rebuilding by this musician? Because I'm not familiar with the samples from it, but I thought it sounded great as well. So Craig, we know that you're the in-house vaporwave fan. So what did you think?
Yeah, you know me, Mr. Vaporwave over here. I actually have an honest question. Do you think they're taking the piss out of 80s R&B, or are they kind of being sincere with it?
I feel like it's sincere.
Because, I mean, I don't know, like, it straddles that line so much, and it just feels like it oozes with irony. Maybe that's because Twitter has rotted my brain.
It has.
And,
it's definitely rotted your brain.
I don't think anybody can be sincere anymore. But, like Angel's complaint is probably why I liked it more than other vaporwave stuff, because it is a little slower, and it doesn't come across as so like just sickly saccharine sweet as a bunch of the other crap that you guys make me listen to week in and week out. But so I really like this, but I think it is because it does straddle that line between an ironic enjoyment of shitty 80s R&B and like making it into something kind of new and interesting. So I don't want to say that I liked this track because I don't want to encourage you guys to.
I'm going to
put
take it as
more of this on
encouragement.
this. God damn it! But no, yeah, I think I don't know. I just it is kind of weird that because all the other stuff that you play, it just sounds like yes, this is what they do and this is what they love, and this just had a feel to it that just kind of is like, yeah, we know this is bad, but it can be sort of good if you just want it to be.
I have a hard time believing that someone would put together a whole record that's this good without loving it. Like, it seems like it's a... I don't know. It seems like it would be a lot of work to do something on a larf of like, oh, isn't this goofy or silly? And also, he must have a pretty committed fan base, because in the notes on the Bandcamp page, he sold some vinyl, and of course it's sold out, and it's very expensive. You go to Discogs, and it even said like limit 2 copies per customer. If you buy more than 2 copies, I will cancel your order. I'm like, whoa, who has to tell people you only can buy 2 copies?
Maybe it's because he just sells them on secondary market himself.
Yes,
that'd be so brilliant. Yeah, I think more bands need to do that. Just pretend like all their stuff is sold out, and then just sell it for like $150 on secondary market themselves.
Yeah, I mean, that basically is what happens with a lot of these acts. They must just make so few copies, and maybe that's the appeal as well. That you got to get it right away, and if not, it's lost forever.
Yeah, well, yeah, but to get back to your point about whether or like why would somebody spend so much time on something that as a larf, like, I think, how a lot of people say they have like guilty pleasures. They're like, oh, I know this is bad, but I just love it. And I think it kind of comes across as that, where they do sincerely like it, but at the same time, they know that in its original form, it's not perfect and it's not great. So you just did a great job of like repackaging it into something a little more palatable. And I think that's where it comes across as an ironic love, but at the same time showing appreciation to the style and the genre. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Like, I think all of vaporwave is kind of like really pushing hard on this like bygone era, but they know it's cheesy as hell at the same time, and they like lean into that cheesiness really hard.
Mm-hmm. It's almost like I think someone else said this, so it's not my own thought, but it's looking at the future from what the early 80s thought the future would be, and of course they thought the world would be great and better and wonderful, and it's even more kind of sinister than when you look through the lens of the past and what they thought the future was going to be, and you realize you didn't end up at that point. We're not in flying cars and hoverboards and everyone drinking Pepsi all the time. Now we're just living in like a pseudo-fascist America, and it's all that stuff.
And drinking artificially flavored seltzers instead of sodas now.
Yeah, I want my damn hoverboard. Speaking of hoverboards, let's get to this next track, which is almost surely not about hoverboards. I really can't tell.
It might be.
It might be. This is a Slovenian band called Veldes with Watcher of Fading Light. Just heard a small snippet of this because it is 15 minutes long. And I recommend go check it all out, because in addition to listening to prog, I've been trying to listen to the Bandcamp's black metal or different metal stylings, because there's so much of it. I mean, if you just click on metal as a tag on Bandcamp, you could just watch the scroll as people just submit records. Like, it's like every 5 seconds, like, here's a new metal record, here's another one. But this one, I don't know how this came up in the algorithm or how I found it, because it seems like it's a pretty big band, or at least they have an already committed fan base. And what's interesting about it, as you've just heard, it has piano in it. So it has this kind of twinkly piano playing with this death metal track. So, Anna, what'd you think of this? I know you're not a metalhead, but was there something here you could enjoy?
Not personally, no. There's a lot of things going against it for me. So,
Like
I used to love prog, right? I mean, that was my thing for a long time when I was younger. But like in this day and age, I really struggle with listening to songs that are like over 4 minutes, I'd say. So anything that's over 4 minutes, I'm already like, oh my god, I'm gonna have to keep going with this. So this was a long track, and I was just kind of like, okay, I guess I'll hunker down and listen to this thing for a while.
Just lean into it.
Oh, I want that to be on the record cover. Well, I guess I'm gonna hunker down and listen to this for a while.
But yeah, also not really my style. I never was really a fan of like that sound where it's like everything's very metal-y, but then you also got that nice little piano thing going on. You know, kind of like the contrast of metal and piano at the same time. Never really did it for me as a sound. So I didn't really like that. But I can definitely see what people enjoy about it, I guess. You know, I don't want to say it's terrible because I don't think it's terrible. It's just not my thing. But I mean, listening to it, I'm like, yeah, I'm sure people think this is amazing.
Craig,
it's got all the right sounds, you know, the screaming voice, the shift in tone, you know, and tempo at some point. So that was cool. Mm-hmm. Just kind of long.
All right, so I want to talk a little bit about Bandcamp and metal releases. There is an amazing trend where a lot of artists, when they're selling their stuff, they sell it for $6.66 of whatever their currency is, and I fucking love it.
Wait, did this band do that?
I don't know if this band did, but like,
no, I don't think so.
Because as we'll find out later in the show, I also threw up a metal track, unbeknownst to me. I did not realize that we were going to have another metal track, but it's great because they're from Slovenia. The other band I chose is from Croatia, so it's like gotta love those Eastern European metal bands who you never know are they singing about the joys of fascism? Maybe. You just cross your fingers that they're not.
Yeah.
But to get to this track, here's my problem with this and most metal. The vocals are shit. I don't like it. I don't like the screaming. I don't like the guttural shit. It ruins so many great, like, musical good songs.
Why do you think they do that? Because I also I think there's a place for it for sure, but if they took the vocals out of this, it would have been a much better.
Especially since they had either two singers or the guy singing in two different styles. Like they had the screaming guttural shit, which is just I don't think it's good. And that's that's a personal thing, and it's also an objective fact that it's just not good.
I mean, but maybe it serves a specific purpose in this kind of metal or this kind of music where it's supposed to be like a release of some kind, or I don't know. I've never been a huge fan of that, but I guess it just adds that kind of ghostly element. Like all these covers, they always have some like misty woods or some like some dark place that's away from civilization. I always imagine this is just supposed to be like, I don't know, like some spirit you encounter out there.
Yeah, I mean, we also have to remember that metal is written for and made by the biggest nerds in the world.
That's true. At least once when they were recording this song, someone was thinking about Lord of the Rings. It was in their mind. He was like,
Dungeons and Dragons. Yeah. The role-playing game they were going to play after the recording.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, exactly. But like I did, back to Anil's point, like I did enjoy the pomp and grandiose music. I thought it was maybe a bit mundane, like the keyboard piano part, like felt like they just put it on there as a reason to be a little different, or just to make it like, oh, we're different than other metal bands. But like it wasn't. Like it was weird because it didn't feel as intricate or as well played as the other stuff, So it felt like all the other instrumentations maybe was at like a 7 or 8 skill wise, and the piano was like at a 4.
Sure,
you know what I mean? So like I think it made it feel a little too disjointed that way. But hey, they did it for 14 minutes. So props.
Yep, props to them. Well, let's get to the next.
Sorry, one more thing. Oh, I was gonna say, sorry. Also, speaking of the cover, they're one of those bands, those metal bands, that has the title of the band that you cannot read, which I never really like either.
Oh, really? I love those. I mean, to me, that's like the best thing about metal is the covers.
The font where it just looks like somebody tried to
squiggly lines.
Yeah, they tried to write their name down during like a 9.0 earthquake while upside down in a Dryer or something like that, and then it's like, here's our band, Death Haven. Well, actually, that's a real band.
I'm sure that's a real band. If it isn't, I mean, someone's got to start it right now.
Well, there's
Yeah.
Death Haven.
There is Death Haven.
Yeah. But yeah, it's really funny because like you ask people, what is this word? What is this band name? And you know, like the metalheads know right away.
Yeah,
'cause
they know what it
apparently
says.
their mind like just works. Like they just like beautiful minded. Like, oh, that's the Smiling Sun. You can't see it plain as day.
Well,
I mean, it just reminds me of high school where you'd see, like, you know, people who are, you know, metalheads or whatever, they'd be drawing out their logos in their notebooks and trying it out. I love that. It's just so nerdy.
Yeah, it's like, oh, what if we made our name out of blood spatter?
Yeah. I think Metallica did that, actually.
Really?
Yeah.
Cool.
Enough about Metallica, though. Let's get to a good band, a good song. This is a track from a Israeli band called Sababa 5 featuring Yurika with Crossroad of Love. I'm pretty thankful that I found this because this is right up my alley. I love kind of 70s Turkish psychedelic music. There was back when I first kind of got back into listening to music on music blogs maybe like 10 years ago or so. It seemed like a lot of people in that what is it, Rapid Share or Media Share, like those websites where basically everyone was just pirating all these old records and posting on their websites. I was finding so much of this. I thought, wow, how is it that no one has, or at least I had not discovered any of this stuff? And this really fits well with that, but it has kind of a modern cultural mixing going on where Yurika, who's the vocalist here, she's a Japanese vocalist. She was like a belly dancer, so she went to Turkey and then Israel and was also a singer. It just sounds super cool. It sounds timeless to me, even though it's definitely taking from that 70s kind of Eastern psychedelic music. So, Craig, what do you think of this awesome song?
Yeah, I actually really dug the bones of this one. It's not, again, kind of like the waterfront dining. It's not as saccharine sweet as some of the other bullshit that you push on me from this genre. The mashup of everything somehow worked. Obviously, like you're saying, like, you know, Japanese singing, she didn't really, you know, was singing fairly in that Japanese, I don't know, like a Japanese pop style.
Yeah.
Whereas the music, you know, it obviously is grounded in, you know, the Middle East, even though it is a little bit, like you said, psychedelic to it. Mashup, yeah. So everything somehow worked, even though everything felt really disparate. And this is, you know, we definitely talk about songs that belong, you know, like that you just have a visual representation of what they look like. And this felt to me that it belongs in some art house heist film, you know, where they're just either like a montage of them setting up the big score, or like the chase scene after it in a kind of a funny, little goofy way. Just like, to me, it kind of felt like that type of song where, you know.
I could definitely see this in a Quentin Tarantino movie.
Yeah, that's the first person I thought of, and I was like, oh man, I don't like that because he's such a bad person.
Is he?
Yeah.
What did he do recently?
What does he do?
I don't know. I don't know much about him.
He's just very outspoken.
Well, all of his movies are just an excuse for him just to say problematic words, and that I don't like that.
Does he?
I would rather. Does he?
I don't.
Have you ever watched any of his goddamn movies?
I guess maybe it just washes over me, and I don't.
His last
notice.
two movies were era appropriate.
What were his last two movies?
The Hateful Eight and Django Unchained.
I did not see Hateful Eight, but I did see Django Unchained.
Yeah, I mean, people have
to
problems
me, so
with
it just. I was gonna say, because he weirdly, I don't know. It's just, he just feels like, I don't know, like.
I mean, I don't follow him that closely, so I don't know. He might be saying terrible things all the time, and I'm not aware of it.
Well, no, it's
really.
more like he's just like the well, why can't I say the N-word type of person?
Oh.
So he does. But he doesn't have, so he just makes excuses for him to say it. It's kind of like if you go to karaoke and you purposely choose a song where they, where they say the N-word and you just purposely say it. I don't know. It just seems like it's just a weird thing because like, oh, I got away with saying it. Isn't that funny? But it's not.
Yeah, I would also say he's kind of old for that. That seems like the kind of thing you'd want to do if you were 18 and an edgelord, but he's like
well,
a 50-year-old
to be fair,
man.
he makes movies for those people.
Yeah, fair enough.
And he continues to do them. He is a pretty good auteur, though, so I got to give him some props.
I love Inglourious Bastards. I love that
But he
movie.
also steals
Yeah,
most
fantastic.
of his aesthetics from other people. And,
Sure.
I mean, or he says, "Oh, they're homages to these other great filmmakers that nobody knows about," but he only tells people like a couple years afterwards, and does I don't know. He's just a problematic figure. Anyway, I really like the song, and so just be happy that I like this.
I am, and I will also take that as encouragement for more of this. So, Anna, what do you think?
Okay, so that last song, that 15-minute song,
Yep.
I listened to it twice, unbelievably.
Wow.
This song I listened to like 30 times probably. It's awesome. I love it.
Yeah.
I really like
And it's
that
packaged in a way that makes it easy to listen 30 times. I mean, it's a 3-minute pop song.
Yeah, it's perfect. I really love the like the little synth line, little synth lead in this song. It's fantastic. But like Craig said, it's this great little mashup of like this Eastern Mediterranean kind of sound, like Turkish kind of, or Israeli kind of sound, and mashing up with like this very nice Japanese kind of vocals, and it's just like perfect. It just works really well.
Definitely
Really
awesome
like
track.
Yeah.
Check it out. It's on a 7-inch as well. In fact, the next song we're gonna play
Actually,
is also.
I want to buy the 7-inch for that. I love it. That second song is fantastic too.
Yeah, it is. And this record label, I don't have it pulled up right here. I'll have to put it in the show notes. But it's a great record label. They do a lot of music like this, kind of like stuff from around the world that is just mashups of lots of styles done really, really well. So I don't have the name on me, but check it out. Let's go ahead and take a look at our next song. Another single, another 7-inch. This is from an Atlanta, Georgia singer by the name of Lady Wray with Piece of Me.
Remember when it was simple things? I'm not really sure these days. I'll let you take a piece of me. I hope you get the piece you need. And if that's not enough, I'll let you go peacefully. Oh yeah. You've been around so long, you did me wrong, but it made me strong.
Angel, you found this, so tell us, what do you know about this act? Why'd you pick this song?
Well, just to do a correction, I believe it's Lady Wray.
Oh, Lady Wray, sorry.
Yeah, I believe.
This does not bode well for that last song in this set for my pronunciation.
Yeah, this is a great song. I love this song too. I probably listened to this one about as much as I listened to that. I think it was a Sababa. Mm-hmm. I probably listened to this about the same amount of times until Bandcamp told me I had to start paying for it.
Yeah, Bandcamp does that now.
Yeah, it's very frustrating. So
That's when you just open up an incognito browser.
oh, does that
That
work?
is true. It's also on Spotify, so
didn't
I mean,
think
you
of
could
that.
just listen for if you're a paying
I
customer.
don't use Spotify. Get out of here.
Oh, I was going to say, well, then you could also you'd be kicking 0.00003 cents her way every time you listen to it.
Yeah.
Oh, good
Although
point.
I imagine it's actually better to listen on Bandcamp because then it pushes it up in their algorithm, which makes it more
Right.
likely people will follow. But anyway,
We'll see it. Yeah.
yeah. So what do you know about her?
So she's from Atlanta, Georgia. I think she used to record under a different name. I think her whole name instead of Lady Wray. But I really like the song a lot. It's another kind of song that's kind of like kind of a throwback sound to like 60s kind of R&B. I really like it because it's got a lot of instrumentation going. There's you got like a standard like guitar, bass, drums, but then you also got like flutes, strings in it. But it's all very kind of subtle. And it's not doing a whole lot, and it's really giving a lot of focus to her voice, which I think is fantastic. And she's just singing this very deep song, and I really like the hook, how it kind of plays with the word peace. a little bit, which is a thing from like the 60s that I always really like, you know, the kind of wordplay that they used to have in songs. So I really loved it. I liked it a lot.
Yeah, I did too. I mean, this is just perfect kind of neo soul or retro R&B. It just sounds, in a different era, this would have been a huge hit. I mean, I guess it could still be a hit today. It just the music industry is terrible and soul crushing more than it's ever been. But what do you think, Craig?
Yeah, like Angel was saying, I like how many decades of soul and R&B this track touches. Like you were saying, it clearly is rooted in the old school 60s and 70s Motown song. But vocally, for me, it kind of hits on that late '90s, early 2000s soul revival with lots of Macy Gray vibes to her voice. And one of my favorite things about these classic genres that are just so well defined is that how you can make it feel contemporary, even though it's clearly going for an old school vintage feel. And like you were saying, just those little touches of instrumentation and tiny little things that they just added to it kind of make it a little more timeless than, oh, this is just a 60s rehash of this. So I like when tracks like can do that, and genres like soul and R&B like lend themselves perfectly to that.
Yeah, and in fact, building on that point, it's the background vocals that come in, they sound definitely of like 60s Motown R&B, but her vocals don't, and they definitely, like you said, they sound like they're being delivered in a much more modern way than you would have heard on those records. So it has just that great little taking from the past, taking all the best stuff and, making it new again.
Yeah, good job.
Speaking of
good job on Hill.
Oh, thank you.
You made this song.
Yeah, I produced it.
Congratulations.
Speaking of like how these last two songs were 7 inches, I do have to say I love this kind of thing I noticed on Bandcamp where they sell 7 inches with these really cool looking labels, and a lot of times I'm choosing songs based on how cool that little label for the inner label looks. I'm like, that looks interesting. And
it looks like it would have been in a jukebox. I mean,
yes, yeah,
that's the
like
aesthetic.
Yeah, it's cool.
All right, well, let's take a look at another great track. This is from a North Carolina act called James Villone with "Easy on My Mind."
From that line, and I was wide awake, and she was sleeping by my side. Must have been something you said. We kept the lights on in my head.
I don't know who found this one. Who put this in the show notes?
Must have been something new.
Oh, I know. How about you tell us about this one?
So I was trying to find some I was looking for some country stuff because I've been kind of on a country kick lately. But I was looking for more of like shit kicker music, like a band and this big grandiose kind of like country sound. And I just clicked on this guy's release just because I was so desperate, just looking for anything. And I listened to this song that I chose, and it's just like, I don't know, it really it kind of hit me, and it kind of spoke to me. It's just really good. I mean, I think it's very it's kind of like a tender song, and it has a lot going on in it. And his vocals are not super country sounding, but the instrumentation is a little more country sounding. It's got a nice little like a kind of a violin fiddle kind of sound in it, and it's, I don't know, it's just, I really thought it was a really nice song, and I really liked it.
Sure. I mean, like Lady Wray, obviously I imagine she has quite a little fan base in Atlanta or beyond, because she's got a bunch of people who bought the records. She does live shows, but there's no one on Bandcamp. I think there's one person who's purchased it, and when I listened to it, I kind of expected a much more lo-fi, just the aesthetic of the page. I just assumed that about it based on that there was very few fans on there, and it was free and all that, but it's really well put together. I mean, this is super polished. I really liked it as well. I like when the harmony, the backing vocals kick in. Right, I mean, it just sounds great. But I'm amazed it's not bigger than it is. Or maybe it is. Maybe Bandcamp's just not where his fans go. But how about you, Craig?
Yeah, so obviously this is some shit that I can get down with. And I'm shocked because like I want to be like, are you sure I didn't find this one somehow and just put it up there without me realizing it? Like it sounds straight out of Secretly Canadian. Like it belongs on that label.
Oh yeah, I can see that.
Like you were saying, the harmonizing he does. I actually looked her up. It's Alex Weiler.
Is that a
and
person?
her voice is amazing, and she also has a Bandcamp page with some songs up there, and they're all really good too. Kind of a similar roots vein to it. It's just a straightforward singer-songwriter stuff. Like it doesn't push any boundaries, but it just pushes beautiful sounds into my ears. So
I love the notes that he has on the record too. It's like, I made some songs that are really important to me. I hope they're important to you too. And I was like, oh, that's so sweet.
Yeah, I was going to mention that because I was going to say, I like that too. And I was going to say, like, I mean, it totally, it said something to me for sure when I was listening to it.
Oh, well, there you go.
Yeah, that was cool.
So thank you, James.
Yeah, well done. Hopefully more people listen to it. I'm sure some of the people that I know listen to our show, they like this kind of music. And in fact, like if I talk to any family member or friend who listens to this, they're not into vaporwave. They're definitely not into heavy metal. But this is the kind of stuff they would listen to. I know. Losers. All right.
Well, maybe we should, kind of tailor our show to them and just drop the vaporwave altogether.
Nah, I'm not about that. I'm not about forcing these things on people. Because they can't turn off the podcast. They know I'm going to ask them questions about it. There's going to be a quiz, so,
Look,
that's how I operate.
Ryan is like a modern-day Alan Freed, okay? He's going to push this vaporwave, and he's going to be a historical figure.
Yeah, I like to think I'm like John Peel, but like 5 times better.
You're just as bald.
5 times as bald, even. Let's go ahead and get to our last song, which is by a Croatian band called Hrmulja. Am I close? Tell me I'm close.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure that the J is soft.
Okay.
Yeah, I would say it's like
of course the J is soft.
Hrmulja.
Why would we have no vowel in the first freaking 3 letters? But Hrmulja, also their song.
Because it's from Croatia.
I guess so. Here it is. Okay, so we have 2 metal tracks in this show. The very first one, of course, that we listen to is, some black metal and doing all that stuff. And this is much more the kind of metal I generally put on if I want to listen to metal because it is more just like a riff-heavy piece. It's, I don't know, I don't like using the word proto-metal for this, but it has this more of that, like, this is just a little bit harder kind of southern rock, which I like about this is that it's a Croatian band, but it sounds like it is, from... Tennessee or Alabama, at least in my kind of where I place this music geographically. The vocals were restrained, and we brought up vocals before with metal music. Like, it's used just enough and doesn't go all over the place with crazy, weird screaming, and so I really appreciated that. But, Craig, you put this in here. You're generally not a metal guy, at least I don't pin you for being a metal guy, so why'd this show up in the show?
No, the only metal I like is doom and sludge metal. Just this, that
hipster
kind of
metal.
Yep, yeah, exactly. Clearly Black Sabbath inspired sludge metal.
Yes.
That just takes the the blues from the 20s and just slows it down and adds a heavy layer of simple bass and simple drums on top of it. And it's great. Vocals, like you said, way better than that Slovenian band. I want to have I want to start a beef between Veldes and Hrmulja. It's a bit samey on all the tracks. So like if you go from track to track, they all kind of sound similar, which is a little knock on them. I would have liked a little more change. But all the tracks, they just lock into a groove. They get on that line and they just go from the start to the finish, and then they're done, and they just do what needs to be done. And then. Also, like the last track, the James Villone track, it's not pushing any genres in its boundaries. It's not pushing any boundaries in its genre. But what it does is it just nails it perfectly. And it's like, again, it's just one of those to me, like doom or sludge metal if it's done right, it's perfect. And most of the time when it's done wrong, it's because they do the guttural singing with it. But it just give me Melvin style sludgy, loud plodding noise, and I love it. So that's why they got the old tip of the hat from me.
Yeah. Do bands, or does the music industry still kind of try to get people to have beefs with other acts? Like, I feel like in the 90s, we lived through a lot of that, and obviously it was all concocted by magazines and tabloids to, sell newspapers or sell magazines and sell records. But
and then there's the murders.
And the murders, of course. But does that happen still today, or
yeah, Drake always has beef, it seems like. He's always got beef with a different rapper.
Yeah, Drake always has beef with somebody that's way more talented than him.
That's smart. That's really smart.
It really is.
Hey, he could
I'm just surprised people don't do it as like a business practice. Like, obviously, you're going to get.
I mean, it might be.
People love that stuff.
What podcast can we get into a beef with?
I don't know. They're going to be like, who? What?
Yeah, exactly. Does Pitchfork have a podcast?
I'm surprised they don't.
We're coming at you.
Yeah. I want to get into like a beef with a totally unrelated type of podcast, like NPR's parenting podcast or something like that. We're just always slagging them off here. Oh no, what'd you think of this?
This song was dope AF, man. It was great. I loved it. I mean, like right from the opening riff, like I didn't stop moving, like tapping and shaking my fist. It was great. I loved it. It was so good.
Yeah,
it kind of does, because you guys have played me some of the the metal from the Imperial Valley, and I feel
Ruckus.
like this kind of, yeah, exactly, Ruckus, fuck yeah, and I feel like this band, or even, well, all right, let's get out of Brawley for a second and just go a little further in with Josh Homme, like with Queens of the Stone Age and those and his bands from that side of things. It's like I feel like they kind of take a lot from the sludge metal genre, where it's just you're out in the middle of the desert and you're just playing a loud, plodding, like just groove noise, because you can just like lock in and just get into a trance for like 15-30 minutes on just playing a couple of songs and just kind of go, and it's just the sound just goes and never comes back because it's just so barren. And that's kind of what I think about stuff like this.
Have you guys heard of this band called Greta Van Fleet or Von Fleet?
Yep.
Okay.
They're pretty popular, aren't they?
Yes. I hate that band.
Unfortunately.
That band is
yes.
Garbage. And I find it so funny, like when I actually like looked at some of their YouTube videos, and in the comments, like everyone's just like, this is real music. Like, yeah, rock music's back. And I'm just like, this is not going to do it. But I think anyone should be like championing like a metal sound that has like kind of like an old riff heavy kind of like focus. I think this band is definitely way more talented than Greta Van Fleet, and they should be getting all the Grammy nominations. They
should be in a feud with Greta Van
Fleet.
Oh,
there you go. Yeah, that would be great.
All right, let's get it started. I'll email these people and be like, hey, I bet you guys hate Greta Van Fleet as well.
Let's tweet. Isn't that how these things get started nowadays?
That's true.
Yeah, probably. Yeah. Let's do that. Or they can make an Instagram story.
There you go.
Very nice. So we played 7 tracks that really go all over the world. Lots of different styles. I think a really good set list. But which is the best in show? I'm going to pass it over to Craig first. Which one of these is going to be at the top of the heap?
Well, I'm going to... I feel wrong for doing this because I don't want to give On Hill any credit. But it's hard for me to choose between the Lady Wray song and the James Villone song. But I think I'm just going to have to go with James Villone because it is such my genre, and I really, really liked it. So congratulations, On Hill. You're not a bad person.
All right.
This week.
And On Hill, which one of these is your best in show?
Okay, so I don't remember if you guys ever did this. Like, I would never vote for my own song, even though I would love to.
I definitely vote for my own song.
Okay.
I'm definitely not voting for Craig's songs.
I usually only vote for my own song.
Yeah, I was pretty sure that's how it usually worked. I will say, as much as I like my songs the most, I probably won't vote for them. But so if I would say my favorite song, that I would say Lady Wray, but I don't want to choose my own song. So I would say, was this Sababa? You remind me, Ryan.
Yep.
Yeah, yep. Sababa. That song it was awesome. I was dancing.
Nice. I was gonna say Sababa as well. If If it was just me and Craig, and I have to pick my own song to spite Craig, that's what I would have done. But since you picked it, I will pick the Lady Wray song. So I think the three that we picked really are some awesome, awesome tracks that are worthy of anyone listening to, and hopefully they get a few downloads from this.
Yeah, and also shout out to Hrmulja, and go forth and kick Greta Van Fleet's ass.
Yeah.
Do it.
I think Greta Van Fleet was talking about their mom, I think, the other day.
I heard that too. I was by the water cooler. Someone said that. All right, on that note, until next time, folks, take care. Peace.
Bye-bye.